如果你今天在公司里研发一个新的系统，而且必须要在台上教台下的观众要如何使用这个系统，你会怎么样开头呢？你是会马上切入主题，还是让 PowerPoint 一页一页的带入重点？那今天就让我们来运用 TED Talk 的 opening 来帮助我们学习一个不一样的简报开头。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管双语沟通力的 podcast。我们希望带给大家最实用的沟通工具，包括了成功人士对全球市场的分享、职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。Hi, I'm Sherry, founder of Executive Plus. As a language trainer and certified coach, I've trained hundreds of managers from Fortune 500 companies such as Dior, Google, Deloitte, and Yahoo.And
I'm Nick, Director of Communication Strategy at Presentality. I've helped startups raise millions of US dollars in funding and train the executives of publicly listed companies to present on the global stage.
Welcome to the Executive Plus podcast,
where you can take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast, episode 60. In this episode, we're going to continue our series on how to open presentations strong. And we're going to be talking about how to open a presentation that is meant to educate your audience.
那在我们进入我们今天的单元之前，想要跟大家先说一下，就是希望大家能够多多的比如说关注我们的 podcast， 还有分享我们的 podcast， 或者是到 Apple Podcast 上面帮我们留一个言，还有给我们5颗星星， really appreciate that。 那所以今天呢，在第60集我们就要继续的我们那个简报开头的单元。那今天要着重的就是在educate 这个部分，比如说你要去教别人一个新的系统，或者是要去教育别人一个新的论点，不管是怎么样的，类似像这样的 presentation， 我们都可以学习一下，从 TED Talk 他们的 opening 了解到该怎么样做一个比较让人家意想不到的 presentation opening.
As Sherry said, education style presentations can actually be one of those places where you can really show your strength or really show a weakness. Meaning, a lot of people will think of education-style presentations as something that they went through in high school or college where someone just drones on about a topic that they think is interesting but doesn't necessarily compel or grab you. So, when starting out an education-type presentation, it's really important to start strong with some kind of hook. Some way to really grab someone's attention. TED Talks are great examples of this, where a really great TED speaker will open with some kind of compelling or really interesting story or idea to grab people's attention. So today we're going to share a few lessons or a few ways that you can start out your presentation strong when your job is just to educate a group of people within the company on something new. Maybe it's a new plan, a new idea, a new project, or new software.
So 在 TED Talk 我相信大家对 TED Talk 都不是很陌生，那你会发现他们刚开始一定会有那个演讲者他一定都会问一个问题， You know, it could be a very compelling question or it could be like a very surprising fact.We're
going to share with you 3 easy ways that you could start off your education type presentation in a TED style. The first type of hook, the first type of compelling statement you can make is something Sherry just covered. Offer interesting data or insight that you have gained on this topic.But will actually show you how it works within our own examples. You can think a lot of times when it comes to a TED Talk, if you have a very scientific speaker, say Hans Rosling, would open up his presentation usually with a statistic or some data that would get you thinking about the scale of an economic problem. So anytime that you use data or statistics,It's a good way to grab someone's mind with just the scale of these things.
Now, would you say that these kind of data or skill would be something that has to do with the audience's life?
Sometimes it can do with the audience's life, but it should be a number that they can somehow connect with. One mistake a lot of people use with data is there's not a context, or your audience doesn't have the background knowledge in order to understand why that's a relevant statistic. So in the case of someone like Hans Rosling, he'll usually start with a lot of numbers that are easily digestible by the audience. Like he might talk about world population growth. 60 years, this was the world population, and here's why. Today, this is the world population, and here's why. It's a number that people don't need a lot of background to understand why he's about to talk about that. And then once he's created that context, he'll go and use some kind of economic terms or economic thought to talk about why is there a shift. But he won't start by just throwing a bunch of numbers that the audience has no context for.
所以当我们在要用这种比较意想不到或蛮有趣的一些知识的时候，记得如果你要提供数字的话，这个数字是要跟听众或者是这观众他们是有一种连结的，他们能够去了解这个数字就跟他们的生活当中是有什么样的关系的。
The second way that you can think about opening your presentation is by asking a compelling or provocative question. Basically, a question that is designed to make someone think more deeply. Now, a good example of this that a lot of people will ask is think about the future 50 years from now. Not do you think there'll be flying cars but think very concretely. What is something you do today that you think in 50 years will drastically change? And what does that look like? This kind of question really gets people thinking. Another way to do that is also ask a question that people think they have a basic answer for and then question them on it. So in a speech given by Nicholas Xie, the actor, at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, he was giving a talk and he asked the audience, who wants to succeed? And of course, most of the audience will raise their hand. And then he immediately followed that up with, who's lying? And then he gets into his point that most people say they want to succeed, but very few people do the work to succeed. They understand their strengths. They understand their weaknesses. They understand where they can fit in a market. It's one thing to say I want to succeed. It's another thing to do the work. And that's how he starts off his talk.
那另外一种问题你可以问比较煽动的一种问题，比较 provocative 的问题，它可能是大家平常觉得他自己知道，那你可能就可以去反问人家，你真的知道吗？还是比如说刚刚 Nick 所讲的，他刚举了一个例子，也就是一个香港演员，非常著名演员谢霆锋，他有一个 speech， 他就问人家说，那有多少的人现在在听的多少的人是在说谎的？所以他类似用这样子的问句，其实就会让人家突然间会发现，诶，这个还蛮有意思的，然后他就会继续的想听下去。
The last way that you can get your presentation opening is by making a counterintuitive statement. Now, counterintuitive is the basic idea that everyone thinks A, and so you're going to take a position that is the opposite of A. Or you're going to give them some information that, again, is different than what most people's basic line of thinking was. And a great example of this is a TEDx talk, TEDx University of Waterloo, by another economist, Larry Smith, where he says most people are going to fail to have a great career. And the reason most people will fail to have a great career is because good careers are not disappearing. Essentially, the idea is most of you will fail to be great because good is abundant. You can find a good career all the time.
所以第三个 example 也就是利用这种 counterintuitive， 也就是违反直觉的，比如说有个问题啊，或者是 statement。那其实很简单来讲，我觉得大部分的人可能常常会遇到，比如说一个新的科学实验证明啊，比如说 我们都一直觉得，比如说鸡蛋好了，对我们很好嘛，但是他可能会说 actually eggs are really bad for you， 他可能会有这样子的 statement， 那就让你觉得very interesting and really wanted to know and find out why exactly eggs could be bad for you.
You're using something that is traditionally in their mind one way, and then you flip the statement at least long enough for them to go, that's a little weird. And then you jump into the details of that.
所以我们来利用这个 hook 到我们的一个真正的一个，比如说你平常在公司可能会需要做的 example。那我们在 opening 有没有提到，比如说好了，现在你有写了一个新的软体，一个 software system， 那你必须要在这个公司要做 implementation， 那你要教所有的员工要怎么样去使用这个新的 software。所以通常类似像这样 presentation， 很多人就会做很多 screenshot， 开始马上切进去，一进入这个 presentation 就是在教学，就叫一页一页的PowerPoint 就这样一页一页带过去，然后就开始进入这个 lesson。那其实在这之前，我们都应该想想要怎么做一个比较 interesting 的 hook。So 我们刚刚有讲到，比如说我们刚刚讲到了嘛，offer some interesting data or insight。那如果我们用这样子的方法的话，我们可以说 Do you know we wasted 60 minutes a day doing busy work using our current software system? 你就可以 point out 说用现有的 software system 其实是很浪费时间的。那我们总共浪费了多少的时间？你把这个数字说出来，让听的观众可以真的是感受得到说天哪，原来我每一天浪费了这么多的时间在用现在的 system。或者呢，你也可以说 Do you know we could have been saving 14,000 minutes a year perfecting other important tasks? Again, 你也是用数字，但数字你可能加起来，比如说你一天浪费60分钟，那一个礼拜加起来多少？一个月加起来多少？一年加起来多少？你用这种数字真的让人家可以感受到，原来我浪费这么多时间在这上面，那我可以把这个时间用在别的地方，所以我一定要来学这个新的系统。
Right. Now, this may just seem like an example, but I can give you a real life time that this is used. I've been working with a medical startup that helps hospitals fix minor inefficiencies in their system. And one of their products has been doing exactly this, saving time. They say that on average, when you go to a clinic to visit a doctor, the doctor spends about 30 seconds downloading your medical information from the National Health Insurance database before talking to a patient. Now, 30 seconds doesn't sound like very much time, but then you think about in an average 3-hour clinic, a doctor will see more than 50 patients. So that means that 30 minutes of a 3-hour clinic is a doctor just downloading information, not talking to patients, not fixing their problems, just downloading information. Using data and numbers this way, it becomes a compelling pitch to an investor to where it's like, why are we spending so much time downloading and not talking?
Exactly. 所以其实用这种数字，因为其实这个跟听众或观众他们都是蛮息息相关的，所以用这种方式可以直接的把他们带入我们的 presentation。那关于数字这个部分，其实我们在之后的 episode 还会再多讲，就是教大家该怎么利用数字来说故事。So, if you want to know more about the numbers and how to use numbers to tell stories, stay tuned to our podcast because we're going to get into that.
We hope that this helps you the next time you want to give an education type presentation, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
如果你喜欢我们的 podcast， 欢迎来追踪我们的主管英文 Executive Plus 的 Facebook。那也可以写信到我们的信箱 yourcareerplus@gmail.com。